A very good morning to all learner judicial officers from Punjab, Haryana and Chandigarh UT. On behalf of Chandigarh Judicial Academy, I, Harshali Chaudhary, faculty member and additional district and sessions judge, being the moderator for today's webinar, welcome you all. The topic for today's webinar would be the occupancy tenants. And who would be the best resource person on this topic than our very own Shri B.M. Lal sir. Sir needs introduction as at one point or the other, we all have been his students and continue to be so. A master in his subject, that is revenue law, Sir has joined the academy in the year 2010, having earlier practiced for 37 long years in the High Court as well as in the district courts. I welcome you, sir. Now, talking about the format of the webinar, as usual, it shall be in the question answer format, where I would be putting up some common questions relating to occupancy tenant, and sir would be answering them. As usual, the chat box would be open and we welcome your questions. Now, looking at the availability of the time, we shall be taking up those questions, but however, in case we could not take up those questions, we shall be taking up those questions later on or make such arrangements. So now over to you, sir.
Yes. Yes, Harshali, what is the question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, what is the first one?
So, now the first question relating to occupancy tenant would be who are occupancy tenants and what is their origin?
Yes, to understand who are occupancy tenants, we first of all must know that insofar as agricultural tenancies in Punjab and Haryana are concerned, agricultural tenancies in Punjab and Haryana, these are of three types. Agricultural tenancies in Punjab and Haryana are of three types. One is tenants at will. Two is tenants for a fixed term. And the third category is occupancy tenants. Now, the rights and obligations of each class are different. For example, tenants at will, they can be ejected or could be ejected by the owner, landlord, by giving a notice under Section 106 TP Act, terminating the tenancy and filing this petition for ejectment under the Punjab Tenancy Act. Now, of course, after the passing of the Punjab Security of Land Tenures Act, even the tenants at will cannot be evicted at the sweet will of the landlord. Now, the landlords who wish to evict tenants at will on agricultural land, they have to file their petitions under this Act, Punjab Security of Land Tenures Act, before the collector, and they have to establish one of the grounds, which is ground for eviction, which is prescribed under this Act. So this is the position regarding tenants at will. Then there are tenants for a fixed term. For example, there is a tenant for 5 years or 6 years or 7 years. Now these tenants, the tenancy comes to an end by a flux of time. When that fixed term expires, then these tenants become liable to be evicted. Third category is this occupancy tenant. When a tenant acquires the rights of occupancy, then the first consequence is he cannot be evicted. That is the first consequence of somebody being a occupancy tenant. He cannot be evicted so long as he is paying the rent. जो भी rent है वो so long is paying the rent on his holding, he cannot be evicted. That is what the occupancy tenant would mean. Now the question is, how does an occupancy tenant come into existence? As Harshali ji asked this, what is the origin of this class of tenants? Now to understand this, we have to go back to the history of early settlement of the villages in Punjab and Haryana. Now, in early times, when the villages were being founded, I would say, village settlements were taking shape. Now, in those days, there were large areas of land in those villages which was lying uncultivated or which was even uncultivable. In those times, there was large areas of land which were uncultivable for a variety of reasons, like some land was under a forest or was hugely uneven. Some other reasons, maybe some stone, pebbles, other things, and for some variety of reasons, the land was uncultivable. So owner contacted some persons and they said, yes, we will make your land cultivable by putting in our labor and hard work, but subject to a condition that when we make this land cultivable, you will give this land to us, to me, or to us on lease as a tenant. And thereafter, you will charge only a nominal rent because it is because of our hard work that the land has become cultivable. And you will charge nominal rent and you will not evict us ever. So long as I am paying that nominal rent. Now on these conditions, those people made the land cultivable and they started cultivating the land as tenants. And these were the people who were occupancy tenants. This is the origin of occupancy tenancy because there was a agreement, express agreement with the owner that they will not evict me so long I keep on paying the rent, and the rent amount also would be nominal. And thereafter, when these tenures started, during the passage of time, many customs started developing around these tenures, defining the rights and liabilities of these occupancy tenants. Subsequently, however, a statutory intervention was made by the legislature to define the rights of, to define this, the status of occupancy tenant as to who would be called occupancy tenants, and also to set out their rights and obligations and also the rights of the landlords. So that act is known as the Punjab Tenancy Act. (1887). So this act defined what is the occupancy tenant, that is section 5. Then section 22 provided for enhancement of rent, and then section 39 provided for eviction of the occupancy tenants. So now, first of all, let us see what is section 5. Now, see, this is Punjab Tenancy Act 1887, section 5. Now statute has defined it. Now, no longer hereafter, the status of occupancy tenant would depend on custom, because earlier everything was governed by custom. So now section 5A says, who at the commencement of the act has for more than 2 generations in the male line through grandfather or great granduncle, and for a period of not less than 20 years been occupying land, paying no rent therefore beyond the amount of land revenue and the rates and cesses for the time being chargeable thereon. Now, one thing which deserves to be noticed here is the correct, later on we should be talking about it, but you should keep this firmly in your mind. The important expression in this section is, what do you mean by no rent beyond the amount of land revenue? This is very important, because this is being misconstrued many a time. This is I will just write down this. You can take a note of it. This is a very important concept here, because unless you understand it, will not be correctly appreciating as to how a person becomes an occupancy tenant. A very important ingredient, I would say. Paying. Now, this is a very important expression. Paying no rent beyond the amount of land revenue plus rates plus cesses. These are the taxes. So it says he should not be paying rent beyond this amount. Some people construe it as meaning that if you are paying, say, 0 rent, but paying the land revenue, rates and cesses, does it mean he is paying rent within this amount? Is he paying any rent here? That would be the question. Now this, what does rent mean? Rent would be something which is in addition to this. These are taxes. These are taxes, not rent. So what this expression means, we'll explain it a little later, but you must keep this firmly in your mind, that land revenue, rates and cesses are the taxes payable on the land holding. They are not something payable to the owner as his consideration. The consideration for the landowner would be something which is above this land revenue, rates or cesses. So isko tera dimag mein, we must keep it in mind before now I proceed further. Now section 5 there is subsection 2. That is also important because it was realized that it would be very difficult to prove that for 2 generations a person has been continuing and 2 generations prior to 1887. If the legislature only left it here, it would have become very difficult, well nigh impossible for a claimant to prove that for 2 generations prior to 1887, his father, grandfather, they were tilling the land as occupancy tenants. That would have become very difficult. Even the records of that era may not be now available. So therefore, a subsection 2 was added to this section. Let us see. Now subsection 2. Now this says, if a tenant proves that he has continuously occupied land for 30 years. Now that is even, for example, even in 2021, if somebody files a suit and he can show that he has been continuously occupied land 30 years backwards from 2020 or 21, and he has paid no rent, again that expression is coming, and he has paid no rent therefore beyond the amount of land revenue and rates and cesses for the time being chargeable thereon. Now, somebody might construe it like this, that he has only paid the land revenue. He has not paid any rent. It may be presumed that he has fulfilled the conditions of clause A. Now here, this subsection 2, in fact, creates a presumption of fact that you need not prove the ingredients mentioned in 1 by leading direct evidence on those ingredients, but you can indirectly prove subsection 1 by proving the facts mentioned in subsection 2. That is, if you prove what is laid down in subsection 2, you would be automatically held to have proved subsection 1. So, subsection 2 regarding the who is the occupancy tenant, what he has to prove? 3 things. That he has occupied the land for 30 years, rather 2 things, that he has occupied the land for 30 years continuously, and that he has not paid any rent in excess of land revenue, cesses and rates. So these 2 conditions keep in mind. And thereafter, so this is how the origin of the occupancy tenants. Yes, Harshali? Harshali ji? Can you hear me, Harshali?
Having talked about occupancy tenants and their origin, the next question that I have in my mind is what are the rights and obligations of occupancy tenants?
Yes, good. Now to the rights and obligations. For this, the 2 sections of this act are important. These 2 sections are section 22 and section 39. First of all, section 22. Let's see. Yeah. Anyway, yes, yes, here it is. Now, section 22 of this act says, where a tenant having a right of occupancy pays his rent entirely by a cash rate on a recognized measure of area or by a cash rent in gross on his tenancy. I mean, cash rent may be per acre, per canal, or it may be in gross. The rent may be enhanced. So this is his obligation or the right of the landlord. on the ground. Now this is important. This will help you in understanding the meaning of the expression no rent beyond the land revenue. On the ground that after deduction therefrom of the land revenue and the rates and cesses chargeable on the tenancy, it is. Then what is the remaining part? That is the rent. If the tenant belongs to the class specified in A, less than 2 annas per rupee of the amount of land revenue. Now it says what is rent actually, which has to be enhanced. You have to amount payable, you have to first deduct the amount of land revenue, which are taxes only, and then see what is the rate of rent. And it says if it is less than 2 annas per rupee of the land revenue. 1/8, 2 annas in 1 rupee means 1/8. If it is less than 1/8 of the land revenue, then you will enhance it. And then the other categories also. So this is one liability of the occupancy tenant. His right, of course, is that he will not be evicted so long as he is paying the rent. 22 says these are the situations in which his rent can be enhanced. Then see section 39, his liability. A tenant having a right of occupancy shall be liable to be ejected from his tenancy on any of the following grounds: that he has used the land comprised in the tenancy in a manner which renders it unfit for the purposes for which he held it, where the rent is payable in kind, that he has without sufficient cause failed to cultivate the land in the manner or to the extent customary in the locality in which it is situated, where a decree for an arrear of rent in respect of his tenancy has been passed and it remains unsatisfied. So this is also were his liabilities. I would say were, because now the positions have changed. We'll discuss it. So 22 and 39 describe his liabilities. His rights, of course, are that he shall continue to pay nominal rent, which will not be exceeding the land revenue, and he will never be evicted by the owner so long as he is paying the rent. So that, I think, would answer the second question. Yes, Shali?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Now, I understand, sir, that there are two enactments dealing with occupancy tenants. One is Punjab Tenancy Act and another would be Punjab Occupancy Tenants Vesting of Proprietary Rights Act 1953. So having had two enactments, the question would be that now what is the impact of the Punjab Occupancy Tenants Vesting of Proprietary Act 1953 on the rights of the occupancy tenants?
Yes. Now these occupancy tenants, as a measure of agrarian reform in the year 1953, because in the year 1953, 52, 53, at this time, major agrarian reforms were initiated by the state. One of those was the Security of Land Tenures Act, that the tenants at will thereafter could be evicted, were afforded statutory protection. And these occupancy tenants also, as a measure of agrarian reform, they were made owners of the land which they were tilling. Tillers became the owners. That was the watchword. So in the year 1953, this act was passed. This act is the occupancy tenants, Punjab Occupancy Tenants Vesting of Proprietary Rights Act 1953. So this was the act that was passed. Now, section 3 of this act is on the screen before you. As per this section, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any law, etc., all rights, title, and interest if any, recognized by any law, custom, usage also, of the landlord, all rights, title, and interest. I leave out the bracket of the landlord in the land held under him by an occupancy tenant shall be extinguished. Now, the rights of the landlords shall be extinguished, and such rights would vest, and such rights, title, and interest shall be deemed to vest in the occupancy tenant, free from all encumbrances, if any, created by the landlord. So on the coming into force of this act, the occupancy tenants automatically became owners. All rights, title, and interest of the landlord became vested in the occupancy tenant, free from all encumbrances. So this is the impact of section 3. And this is on that day, but thereafter also, whenever a person acquires this status, whenever he does it after 53, now there will be two categories of cases. One, who were occupancy tenants on that day when this act was passed. So they will automatically get the ownership rights on that day. Then there will be another category of cases who will acquire this right later when they satisfy the requirements of section 5, subsection 2. So those tenants also shall acquire ownership rights under this section. And then the landlord shall cease to have any right to collect or receive any rent or any share in the land revenue in respect of such land, and his liability to pay land revenue in respect of the land shall also cease. So landlord ceases to have any right. And then another important thing was clause D. In lieu of what is vested in him, the tenant, occupancy tenant, shall be is liable to pay compensation. Clause D. Occupancy tenant shall be liable to pay, and the landlord concerned shall be entitled to receive such compensation as may be determined under this act. So then section 4 says, any landlord whose rights have been extinguished may, within 12 months, apply to the collector for determination of the compensation. So this is the provision regarding paying the compensation. Now here also sometimes the question arises, if the occupancy tenant does not pay the amount of compensation to the owner, what happens? Does he stand divested of the property which has already vested in him, or it does or not? That is an important question. Now here you'll see section 6. This provides the answer. The compensation awarded in this act shall be paid in cash or deposited with the collector by the occupancy tenant within a period of 3 months. Then provided the collector may, he can allow the in 6 month installments, etc. 2, this is important. This is important. Where the occupancy tenants makes a default in the payment of rent and the payment of compensation, in accordance with the terms of the award, the amount due may be recovered as arrears of land revenue. So this is important. It means that if the occupancy tenant who has been clothed with the ownership rights in the holding, if he fails to pay the compensation amount to the owner, does he cease to be the owner? Would it result in divestiture of his title? The answer is no. The only consequence is that that amount of compensation would be recoverable from him in the same manner as areas of land revenue. So vesting is automatic. Divestiture will not take place. Only the amount shall become recoverable as areas of land revenue. So this is the impact. What is the impact of Punjab occupancy tenants? That all rights of the landowner vest in the tenant. He has to pay the compensation. If he doesn't pay the compensation, it will not result in divestiture. The compensation would become recoverable as area of land revenue. Yes, Harshali ji. Next. Hanji, can you hear me, Harshali?
Yes, sir. So, sir, I've had the opportunity to deal with the litigation pertaining to occupancy tenants in stations like Bhiwani, Rohtak, and Panipat. And one of the arguments that the opposite counsel used to advance, and of course, I'm sure this is the question of many of the officers attending the webinar also, is that where Section 77 of the Punjab Tenancy Act bars the jurisdiction of the civil court from entertaining and trying a suit seeking declaration by the tenant that he possesses the right of occupancy, then in that scenario, can the civil court entertain the suit for declaration or injunction relating to occupancy tenants or not?
Yes. Now, 1 minute. Section 77, insofar as the jurisdiction of the bar of jurisdiction of the civil court is concerned, for that the argument that is raised is based on Section 77 of the Punjab Tenancy Act. Let us read 77, then I'll answer the question. 77, yes. Here it is, yes. This is section 77 of the Punjab Tenancy Act 1887. When a revenue officer is exercising jurisdiction with respect to any such suit as is described in the subsection 3, or with respect to any appeal, etc., he shall be called a revenue court. Then it's a subsection 3, section 77, subsection 3. The following suits shall be instituted in and heard and determined by the revenue court, and no other court shall take cognizance of any dispute or matter with respect to which any such suit might be instituted. So it is here that the jurisdiction of the civil court is barred in relation to the following suits. The following suits shall be instituted in and heard and determined by revenue courts, and no other court shall take cognizance of any dispute matter with respect to which such suit might be instituted. Now let us see what are these suits. Second group, D. Suits by a tenant to establish a claim to a right of occupancy, or by a landlord to prove that the tenant has no such right. So it talks of suits by tenant to establish a claim to a right of occupancy. That is the main thing, because the other kind of suits would be very rare. So if a tenant files a suit to establish a right of occupancy, 77(3) says it shall be instituted, heard and determined by the revenue court. And no other court shall take cognizance of this matter of any such dispute. So this is where the argument is raised that the civil court will have no jurisdiction to entertain suits involving declaration of occupancy, rights of occupancy tenancy. But this was okay. I mean, earlier this section did bar the jurisdiction of civil court, there is no doubt on it. But after the passing of the Vesting Act, after that 1953 Act was passed, which resulted automatically in the vesting of ownership rights in the tenants, occupancy tenants, then this section stopped applying to the suits. The reason was that when the Vesting Act was passed, automatically all the occupancy tenants became owners. Automatically they became owners. Now a suit for declaration that a person is an occupancy tenant means that he is the owner. Now it has become a title suit. Earlier it was not. Now after the coming into force of the, I will call it the Vesting Act 1953, the moment you seek a declaration that I am an occupancy tenant, actually you are seeking a declaration that I am the owner. So it has become now a title suit. It's no longer a suit of the nature that is envisaged under section 77 of the Tenancy Act. It has now acquired a different hue, a different color. Now its consequences, its impact changes or has suffered a metamorphosis, I would call it, a complete change. So, then this view, this matter, I mean, came before the full bench of the Punjab High Court in Shiv Charan case. That is important. Exactly this point came up before the Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court. In Shiv Charan's case, I will give you the citation. Now the case is the Shiv Charan versus Financial Commissioner Haryana. The citation is 2004, Volume 3, PLR 569. Now this was decided on 29th of May 2004. This is by the 3 learned judges of the Punjab High Court, the full bench decision. Now in this judgment, it has been categorically held by the Punjab High Court. And it has relied upon another case in Amin Law's case. It relied upon that and has endorsed the view taken in that case. It says, after the coming into force of the Vesting Act, what was required was in fact a declaration of title based on the fact as to whether a person claiming has a right of occupancy had in fact become the owner. Though for arriving at this conclusion, it would be necessary for the court to examine the conditions prescribed by the Vesting Act and to determine as to whether they have fulfilled those conditions. But after the coming into force of this act, there was a simultaneous extinguishment of the right of occupancy and conversion of the same into ownership. And as such, a declaration of title could be given only by the civil court. Because of this reason, this court held in this full bench that after the coming into force of the Vesting Act, the civil court alone, now this is the finding, now this is the holding. Now the civil court alone, not concurrent, now the civil court alone has the jurisdiction. Revenue court now is no longer in the picture. Civil court alone has the jurisdiction to give this declaration. And then it has also clearly said jurisdiction of the revenue court would be barred. This is the holding in this judgment. So after this full bench, I do not think there is any room for doubt now regarding the jurisdiction of civil court. So yes, Harshali. Next. Yes, next question.
Yes, sir. So now we understand the civil court. Now we understand that the civil court has got the jurisdiction to entertain the suits for declaration and of course injunction also. The next question is, so that if that the case is, then what the plaintiff has to plead and prove to become entitled to a declaration that he has acquired the status of occupancy tenant?
Yes. Now this is in fact a very important question. And this is one question which poses a challenge, big challenge when it comes to deciding the actual suits coming before you. Now let us see what a person who claims that he has become an occupancy tenant, what he needs to prove. That is important. What he needs to prove before he can claim to establish the status of occupancy tenant and automatically that of an owner. Now, what he has to prove? One, he must prove that this is very, very important. This is something which is ignored many a time by some people. Must prove that he, that is the plaintiff, possessed the land or rather occupied the land this is important. In his, this is in capital letter, in his capacity as a tenant. Now this is something very important. Before a person can successfully claim to be an occupancy tenant, he has to show unerringly, he has to show clearly that he is a tenant. As I said at the beginning, occupancy tenant is a species of a tenant. A tenant is the genus. Occupancy tenant is one of the species. If you are not a tenant, you cannot be occupancy tenant. It is true, the reverse is true. If you are not the occupancy tenant, you may be a tenant. But if you are not a tenant, you cannot be occupancy tenant. So the first requirement is the person claiming this status must show that he is a occupancy, that he is a tenant, that he must show Without this, you cannot succeed. Now, what is this question arises? What is the tenant? Who is the tenant? That is now the second question. So now we have seen Masho. He is the tenant. Now the question is, who is the tenant? Now the tenant would be that person who is under a legal liability or obligation to pay rent. It can be in cash, it can be in kind. If it is in kind, it would be called, say, batai. If it is in cash, it may be called chakota. So the essential, I would call it, the sine qua non. Sine qua non of the relationship of landlord and tenant is the liability to pay rent. Without the liability to pay rent, a person cannot claim to be a tenant. Now, mere description in the revenue record as gair marusi. If a person is described as gair marusi in the cultivation column of Jamabandi, now this by itself does not mean that he is a tenant. Gair marusi by itself does not mean tenancy. Something more has to be proved. Unless the payability of rent is proved, a gair marusi shall not be a tenant. For this, I give you one judgment of the Punjab High Court. This is now this judgment is 1980 PLJ, page is 295. This is Ram Karan versus Financial Commissioner, Haryana. Now, in this judgment, it has been very category held by the Punjab High Court. They say so. What do they say? They say it is settled law. In fact, I can read that para to you. I can show that para to you. Now, the judgment, I think you have scanned. Just take a look. This is the judgment. This is citation is not mentioned. You write it. 1980 PLJ, page 295. Ram Karan Financial Commission. Now the relevant para I will read. Now see. In any case, if you can see this, in any case, payment at owner's rate cannot be interpreted that any rent was to be paid. It is settled law. This is important. It is settled law that generally in the revenue record, persons even in unauthorized possession are described as gair marusi in the column of cultivation. But from this entry alone, it cannot be held that the status of such persons is that of tenant, unless in the rent column is column 9, the Lagan column, it is disclosed that such persons were liable to pay rent. Reference may be made. Now, what does it say? That mere description of a person as Gair Marusi is not enough. He has to, column 9 has to also tell us that rent is payable. So it is only then he would become a tenant. So the first requirement is, coming back to the question, the first requirement is that the person claiming the status of a Gair Marusi, of a occupancy tenant, must show that he is a tenant. Mere Gair Marusi is not enough. This is one. Once he shows that he is the tenant, the second condition is that he has been occupying it for a continuous period of 30 years or more. This can be proved by those Jamabandis. He can produce those Jamabandis for 30 years to show his continuous occupation. That is 2, 1, 2, and 3. This is again important. He has also to show that the rent payable, now this is important, ये जैसे शुरू किया था मैंने, rent payable does not exceed, इसको जरा समझना पड़ेगा, the amount of land revenue plus cesses plus rates, इससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, तब हम उसे ऑक्यूपेंसी टेनेंट कहेंगे. टेनेंट है 30 साल हो गए. और ये अब इसको थोड़ा समझना है. मान लो, let us take an example. There is a piece of land, the land revenue plus cesses plus rates. For example, this total is 30 rupees. Now the tenant is paying what? Tenant is paying 30 rupees. He's not paying any rent because he's only paying the taxes. But if he's paying, say, 70 rupees, now see, 70 minus 30 is 40. So he's paying what? 40 rupees as rent. Now this is more than the land revenue. This figure should not exceed, इसका मतलब ये है, he should not be paying rent more than the amount of these 3. For example, he's paying 55. Then deduct 30, he's paying 25. This is okay. Because this 25 is not beyond 30. It is within 30. The third condition only means that the rent which he is paying should not be more than the land revenue. This is what it wants. It doesn't mean that he's not paying any rent, he's only paying land rent. Now I'll give you an example. If I ask somebody to live in my house, I say, you live in my house. I have to go somewhere, you live. And you keep on paying in my absence the electricity and water bills and the house rent. And he lives there. For the time he uses the property, he pays the electricity bills, he pays the taxes, he pays the water bill. That doesn't mean he's paying rent. He's not paying any rent to me. He is only paying the government taxes, which he using is paying. So therefore, this is if somebody is not paying anything more than the land revenue. If after deducting the land revenue, he is not paying anything, then he is not paying the rent. So this is important. He must pay the rent. But the total amount of rent which is paying, I mean, by deducting the land revenue component, if amount paid minus the land revenue component should not be more than the land revenue component. This is what it means. Equation is like this. So if these three conditions are satisfied, he will become entitled to a declaration of his being a occupancy tenant, automatically inferring that he would be a owner now. Yes. Yes. Yes, Harshadji.
Yes, sir. In the Jamabandi that we see, there are many technical Urdu words which are being used, and at times we really do not know what do they connote. So one of the terms that we come across pertaining to occupancy tenancy is Gair Morusi Bashra Malkan. So,
Yes, yes.
enlighten us as to what does this term mean?
Yes, very good. Now, sometimes you'll see that when people seek a declaration of occupancy tenancy, they produce Jamabandis for say 30 years. And the entries say some of the, I'll only give those entry. Now, supposing in the column of cultivation, the entry is Gair Marusi. And in the Lagan column, the status is given as Bashara. This is Bashara Malik. Now, in what capacity and then land revenue is mentioned here. Now, then what is the meaning of this? Does it mean that a person is the tenant? Because as we've seen that to prove that he is an occupancy tenant, he must prove that he is a tenant. Does this entry mean this person, Ram Singh, he is described as Gair Marusi, and here this is the Bashara Malik and land revenue. Now, what can he claim to be having the status of a tenant on the basis of this entry? That is the question. I'll show you that. I have typed here. I will just show you. Now, this is, for example, they have, I mean, we have done 4 Jamabandis in one. हम इस एंट्री को एक ही समझेंगे. गैर बरूसी बशरा माल का रिहायश यकजा, बशरा माल का आपसदारी, लगान बावजा रिश्तेदारी. दिस इज बिला लगान बावजा रिश्तेदारी. यहाँ थोड़ा मिस हो गया. बिला लगान बावजा रिश्तेदारी. इसमें एक ओनर है राम सिंह. Cultivator is Dildar Singh. He is described as Gair Marusi. And then in the Lagan column, it says Gair Marusi Bashara Malkan. And underneath, as I said, for example, they have written land revenue here, payable, that he is paying this land revenue. Now see, what is Bashara Malkan? Gair Marusi Bashara Malkan. See, now in Urdu language, Bashara means, because you must know what is the meaning of Bashara. Bashara in English language means face or visage or physiognomy. This is all face, different words for face or facial expressions. So Bashara literally in Urdu means face. This is Urdu. Bashara. Look, you see a Urdu dictionary, you will find this. Basara means face, visage or physiognomy. Bashara Mahalkan means that this person who is the Gair Marusi in column 5 is his capacity is Bashara Malkan, that is on behalf of the owner. यानी कि वो हमें मालिक का फेस दिखा रहा है. He is wearing that facade of the owner, the mask of the owner. He is masquerading as the owner, or he is coming through the owner. He is his representative, his agent, his licensee, whatever. But a person who is a Bashara Malkan is never, he is not holding the property in his independent capacity, in his own capacity. उसकी अपनी कोई इंडिपेंडेंट कैपेसिटी नहीं है. Tenant in law, lease creates an interest in property. If you look up the definition of lease, lease creates an interest in the property, legal interest, legally enforceable interest in the property. This is the right of the tenant, tenant's own right. But Bashara Malkan person does not have a right in the property. He is only showing us, you ask him, who are you? In one capacity, in what capacity you are holding the land? He shows you the face of the Malik. उसकी फोटो डाल के दिखा देता है जी, उनसे पूछो, मैं तो उनके behalf पे हूँ. So Bashara, if you know the meaning of Bashara, the things become very clear. Bashara Malka means the person. He is a Gair Marusi, Bashara Malka. He is recorded as Gair Marusi, but and capacity is on behalf of the owner for whatever reason. His representative, his licensee, his agent, whatever he can be. Yes. Next. Yes, sir, Charlie.
Yes, sir. So similarly, sir, there is another term that is Gair Marusi Bashara Malkan Rihayish Jagja.
हाँ, अब पहले तो सिर्फ बशारा मालकान लिखा था. कई बार उसकी आगे डिस्क्रिप्शन दे देते हैं कि ये बशारा मालकान क्यों है, मतलब हाउ हैज द ओनर अलाउड हिम टू कल्टीवेट ऑन हिज बिहाफ, रीजन क्या है. कई बार उसमें मेंशन कर देते हैं, वो ये होते हैं. फॉर एग्जांपल इट्स ए गैर मरूसी बशरा मालकान रिहायश यकजा. मान लो ये एंट्री, इसका मतलब है ये गैर मरूसी मालिक का ही रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, उसी के थ्रू है, उसी की मर्जी से कर रहा है, उसका इंडिपेंडेंट राइट कोई नहीं है. रीजन क्या है? रिहायश यकजा, दे आर लिविंग टुगेदर. यकजा इन उर्दू मीन्स टुगेदर. No, sometimes there are some old ladies who are not capable of, they are living with say, some nephew or somebody. So they are living together, and that nephew, he is cultivating. So for a long time, then he is ultimately recorded as Bashara Malkan Rihayish Yakja. Fine, no problem. But that doesn't mean that that nephew is a tenant. No, he is not a tenant. He is described as Gair Marusi only because of this reason. He is living with the owner and the owner has asked him to cultivate on his behalf. Fine, good. Then, yes, next.
Yes, sir. So similarly, sir, another word that we come across is गैर मौरूसी, गैर मुमकिन, बिला लगान, बावजह रिश्तेदारी, and also गैर मुमकिन, बशरा मालकान आपसदारी. We have two terms here.
हाँ, ये भी वैसे ही आ जाएंगे. आप देखें, गैर मुमकिन, बशरा. This firstly, this, the correct pronunciation है बशरा. ये उर्दू के शब्द हैं. बशरा, गैर मुमकिन, बशरा मालकान आपसदारी. ये है भी वेरी क्लोज फ्रेंड्स के जैसे कोई आदमी है, अगेन ए ओल्ड मैन, ही हैज ए वेरी क्लोज फ्रेंड, कॉन्फिडेंट. तो बशर आपसदारी भी आपसदारी में वो कर रहा है, या वो असली मालिक कहीं और रह रहा है तो उसकी हेल्प करना है, करता रहा तो बहुत देर से वो कर रहा है, उसको बशर आपसदारी ऐड हो गया. बट दिस अगेन डज नॉट शो दैट ही इज ए टेनेंट. And then गैर मुमकिन, बिला लगान, बावजह रिश्तेदारी. This is the clear case of license. Now this is गैर मौरूसी, बिला लगान, रिश्तेदारी. Now it says he is a गैर मौरूसी, बिला is without, he is not paying any rent. Reason is कि वो रिश्तेदार हैं. They are closely related. So it is a case of license. There is no question of this being a tenancy. So जो ऐसी entries हैं, they do not mean is that the person concerned, एक मैं एक judgment देता हूँ आपको, has acquired the status of a tenant. तो ये हम शुरू से देख रहे हैं कि tenant तो भाई occupancy tenant तो तभी होगा यदि टेनेंट है. टेनेंट होना जरूरी है, और ये जो टर्म्स हैं इससे टेनेंसी साबित नहीं होती. अभी मैं एक जजमेंट देता हूँ आप. दिस इज मुकुट सिंह वर्सेस ज्वाला देवी, 1983, PLJ, page is 182. मुकुट सिंह versus Jwala Devi. Now in this judgment, Punjab High Court, this is Punjab High Court. Now they have said the Jamabandi in the occupancy column mentioned the Bashara Malkan, Rihaish Yakja, Bashara Malkan, Bashara Malkan, Apasdari, Bashara Malkan, etc. These entries do not mean that a rent is payable or there is a relationship of landlord tenant. इस जजमेंट में ये इन्होंने डिस्कस किया. इस एंट्री से रिलेशनशिप ऑफ लैंडलॉर्ड टेनेंट साबित नहीं होता. So yes, next question.
Yes, sir. So now, after understanding these terminologies in Urdu, another question would be that can status of occupancy tenant be inferred where the cultivator is described in either of the above terms in Jamabandi for a period of 30 years or more?
I think the answer is self-evident because I have told you already that unless a person proves that he is a tenant, he cannot be occupancy tenant. And these terms do not imply the existence of any such relationship with landlord tenant. And therefore, these entries will not, from these it cannot be inferred that he has acquired the status of occupancy tenant, even if he cultivating the land for 30 years or more. Yes.
Now, sir, if in the Lagan column, number 9, it is mentioned that the cultivator is paying the land revenue, cesses and rates only, and such a state of affairs continues for 30 years or more. Would it be possible to hold that he has acquired the status of occupancy tenant?
Now, I think the answer to this question, this in fact is a very important situation, because as I said, there was a confusion. Now there should not be, that what is rent? Because for a tenant, it has to be the payment of rent. Now these are only taxes; they are not the rent component. So if he's only paying this as on behalf of the owner, then again he's paying it on behalf of the owner. That's all. He's not having any independent right as a tenant, because his independent right of a tenant can come in only if he's paying rent to the owner. If he's not paying rent to the owner, he can be anything but a tenant. And unless you are a tenant, you cannot be occupancy tenant. Paying taxes is not paying rent to the owner. Yes. I think that answers all the. Yes, any other question you have?
Yes, sir. Sir, these are all the questions that I could think of. But we received one question from one of the attendees that a Gair Morusi tenant on Bataiti High claimed himself as occupancy tenant to be in possession of the land for more than 30 years, and said land has now been acquired by government. So what should be the share of Gair Morusi tenant in the compensation of the acquired land?
All right. Now here the question is, he is at condition number 1. He is a tenant, all right. That is fine, because he's paying rent as Batai Tihai. Then you have to also see, second, does he prove that he is a tenant for 30 years? एक तो ये आपको देखना पड़ेगा. एक जमाबंदी में ये लिखा है, फिर तो वो कुछ नहीं, फिर तो टेनेंसी साबित हो गई. चलो. और दूसरा 30 years भी साबित करना है उसको. तीसरा, that this rent which is Batai Tihai, it does not exceed the land revenue. ये कभी हो नहीं सकता, because Batai Tihai land revenue is not more than 5-10 rupees. If you see the Jamabandi, is very less. So, but the value of Batai Tihai obviously shall be much more than the land revenue. So here the rent is Batai Tihai. So there is no question of it being a occupancy tenant. Yes, as the land acquisition is concerned, in his right as a tenant, he is entitled to a share in compensation. Normally they give about 1/4 share in compensation to tenants. This also depends on what kind of tenant you are, कितने term के हो, क्या आपके liabilities वगैरह हैं. लेकिन 1/4 25% दे देते हैं. और यदि आप ऑक्यूपेंसी टेनेंट हो फिर तो आपको 100% ही मिलेगा, माइनस द अमाउंट ऑफ कॉम्पनसेशन, दैट इज मीगर. लेकिन उसके लिए जो इसमें सबसे बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट है, यू हैव टू सी बटाई तिहाई इज अ लॉट ऑफ मनी, दैट इज 1/3 ऑफ द प्रोड्यूस. That cannot be less than or equal to land revenue. Land revenue is very nominal. Yes, any other?
No more questions from the listeners, sir. And this brings to an end to a wonderful session on the topic. Thank you very much, sir, for being here and enlightening us on the occupancy tenants. Sir has now specifically asked me to request you all to send the questions pertaining to the status of occupancy, and also Jamabandi, on the basis of which the litigant has claimed the right of occupancy, as you have already dealt or you are dealing in the civil suits. we can help you in decipher those entries and accordingly share with you. Thank you very much for being here and attending this session with us. As you all know that now we are also available on YouTube channel with Chandigarh Digital Academy having an independent channel. So this recording and all other recordings are available on the YouTube channel. So I request you all to subscribe to our channel, and till with the next topic, with the next webinar, till we meet again, have a very good Saturday. Namaskar.
Thank you.